Novocaine was directed by the team of Dan Berk and Robert Olsen, starring Jack Quaid, the son of Dennis Quaid, as well as Amber Midthunder. And I mentioned in my first thoughts short that I just put out, the trailer for this movie, it concerned me a little bit. It looked wacky enough, it looked fun, but it definitely looked like it had a lot of derivative elements that I had seen in action comedies like this. Jack Quaid plays a man named Nathan Kane who has an inability to feel pain, and the girl of his dreams gets kidnapped from the bank that he's the assistant manager of, so he turns this genetic disorder into an unexpected advantage as he fights a bunch of thugs to get her back. And I think that's about the extent that I'm gonna go into plot-wise, because surprisingly enough, this script has a lot of super clever twists and turns that I wasn't even able to predict, guys. I don't think anybody could predict it. But honestly, with where they go with certain characters and their backstories and their given circumstances, it made the movie a lot better. Who would have thought, going from something that I thought would have been super derivative action junk, it turns into probably one of the biggest surprises of the year so far. Novocaine was so damn fun. These directors and these screenwriters absolutely know what they were doing in order to consistently entertain the audience. And I think what makes Novocaine so great is that it interweaves so many different genres together. Because I mentioned this, I was thinking about it since I recorded that short not too long ago. That first act, yeah, it's a bit slower compared to everything else. But that's because that first act feels like a romance movie. And I'll give them credit, it's a damn good romance. But then once the action kicks into another gear, and once you start seeing blood everywhere, once you start seeing bones getting broken, and this movie is fearless in showing you what it wants to show you. This is some f***ing brutal action, guys. Not only that, but super creative and honestly kind of hilarious. Because think about it, this is a guy who feels absolutely no pain whatsoever. It isn't even something that he wanted, it's something that he was born with. And he's only going through with this mission to save his girlfriend. And the action sequences have that added element of comedy because his opponents are just so perplexed by the fact that he cannot feel pain. There's a sequence in a tattoo parlor that there's a reason why I don't want to get tattoos, guys. Because that stuff is freaking painful. I'm a big wuss. I think the performances you get here across the board are fantastic. I know a lot of people love Jack Quaid and The Boys. And I know a lot of people love him for his ability to switch his good-looking charm on a dime and to be able to turn into a monster who's kind of sinister underneath the good looks. You saw it in Scream 5, you saw it in Companion not too long ago. But here he kind of steps out of his comfort zone a little bit and he's just a straight-up leading man. And I think Dennis Quaid should be very proud of his son here. Jack Quaid is very, very good in this movie. Really good in the action sequences, and I feel like his overall delivery of this kind of honestly makes me think a little bit about Deadpool. This guy isn't as vulgar as Deadpool, he's a bit more clean cut, and I think it's just the way that he delivers his dialogue while he's kicking these guys' asses. But he was really fantastic, a really great hero, so much fun to watch. And speaking of Marvel, you also have Jacob Batalon, Ned from the Spider-Man movies. And yeah, he's basically about what you'd expect. He certainly fits the nerdy archetype sidekick. It's really funny how his character is actually revealed to the audience. I feel like there was a bit of a missed opportunity there to kind of keep his inclusion a bit more of a surprise. I don't know if that necessarily would have mattered, but for nerdy movie buffs like me, I feel like that would have made the moment so much more better if we did not know it was Jacob Batalon. You also have Amber Midthunder in here playing the romantic interest of Jack Quaid. You might remember her from a little movie called Prey, which came out a few years ago, and Prey was f***ing awesome. And she was even more badass in this movie. I love that she's not just a damsel in distress that Novocaine has to go and save. Like, this movie takes a lot of the cliches that you're used to in action movies, and they completely reinvent the wheel here. And a lot of stuff with this character, especially Sherry, played by Amber Midthunder, a lot of it makes so much more sense. And it makes the story so much more compelling, and it feels like there's stuff on the line here. Especially without spoiling anything once you include Ray Nicholson's character into the mix. And yes, Ray Nicholson is the son of Jack Nicholson, one of the greatest actors I feel like of all time. And I had no idea he was Jack's son until I figured it out. Like, I thought he looked familiar and that he looked like somebody I know. But then I see that he's a Nicholson and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Just because of how maniacal he is and just how much fun he's having. The robbery scene he is definitely taking after his father's performance in the original Batman from 1989. At least that's what it feels like to me. But I'm definitely curious to see where this guy's career goes. I'm curious to see where Amber Midthunder's career goes from here. And I'm curious to see if Jack Quaid can get some more leading man roles. Like, he was really, again, everybody was great in this. I mean, for an action comedy, this kind of checks all the boxes, guys. Novocaine has some super creative action sequences. It's got a killer soundtrack to boot. And I think it's a really nice blend of all sorts of genres. It's not just an action comedy, but it's also a romance that also has some dramatic elements in there that work quite well. Bravo to this tandem of directors. I think they do a really solid job with this action. The editing might be a bit choppy here and there and a bit too many quick cuts for my liking if I'm really nitpicking. And I will also say that the script does try to beef up the characters of the detectives a little more than they probably should have. Because I'll be honest, and I mean no disrespect when I say this, when you see the detectives in this story, like, they're definitely necessary, but I didn't really care about those characters. Like, they just felt like plot devices to move the story further. I appreciate the effort to flesh out some of those smaller nothing roles, but in the grand scheme of things, I really don't know if it added a whole lot to the story. Besides those nitpicks, guys, Novocaine is a massive surprise. I really had a great time with this movie. If you're a movie buff like me, if you're an action junkie, you're gonna want to see this on the big screen. If you feel a bit queasy at the sight of blood, and especially at the sight of broken bones and broken fingernails, man, that was oddly specific, then yeah, probably skip Novocaine if that's you. But if that doesn't bother you, absolutely buy a ticket to see Novocaine this weekend. I'm going to give Novocaine an A-. If you're having a bad day, I'm no doctor, but I would absolutely prescribe Novocaine to numb your pain. That was kind of a stupid analogy, but regardless, let me know what you thought of Novocaine down in the comments section below. And let me know what your favorite action comedies of all time are. I love getting in front of this camera. I love discussing all things in the cinematic world with you on the regular. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, please, and tap on that thumbs up as well. Loads of new content hitting this channel very, very soon. Look out for reviews of the Snow White remake. I've also got that Steven Soderbergh movie to check out. No shortage of topics over here, guys. Y'all are the best. Thank you so much again for your support. And with all that being said, Back Talk, commence.